My name's Ben Thurley. I'm the CEO of INF Australia. I'd like to welcome everybody, wherever you are in Australia or the world, to this webinar on an end to leprosy. I'd like to acknowledge that where I'm sitting is Darug country of the Darug people, Indigenous Australians who in God's sovereignty stewarded these lands and cared for these lands for countless generations. And I want to acknowledge them, their elders, and their care for God's earth for all those generations, and acknowledge the dispossession and suffering that Indigenous Australians have experienced. If you know the people who were the traditional custodians of the land on which you sit, maybe take a moment to remember and reflect on their experiences. And if you don't, maybe that's something that after this webinar you could find out more about. Our topic, as I mentioned tonight, is an end to leprosy. Our two speakers are Ulla-Britt Engelbrechtsen. She is an associate professor in social anthropology. She is a nurse. She's currently sitting at home in Sweden. And really thank you so much for making the time available and your expertise. Ulla-Britt has also shared her time and her expertise and her capacity in both her areas with INF over a number of years, serving in Circuit, and she also lectures, as I mentioned, in social anthropology, and brings that into her role. I'm just going to, sorry. Make sure everybody is muted. So Ulla-Britt will be sharing about leprosy and the impact, kind of what it is, how it works and the impact it has. And Karuna Tamangurung is the nursing superintendent at Green Pastures Hospital. She has been serving there in that role for about 4.5 years. And prior to that, she was lecturing in nursing at Pokhara University. And she'll be sharing about INF's work to combat leprosy, both our medical and our community and other work. So really privileged to have these two wonderful women sharing tonight. I am going to get out of the way and hand over to Ulla-Britt.
Okay, I see that Karuna has a wonderful picture with a fishtail in the background, snow covered. I'm sitting in my kitchen, but Sweden presently is snow covered, is white all around us. I guess that's not the case in Australia. Okay, I have been asked to give somewhat of an overview of leprosy in Nepal, and I will try to do that in about 20 minutes. Leprosy is a disease of the past, but also of the present. And then we should have one slide coming in here. Do we have the slide? There we go. So it's an overview of leprosy in Nepal with background. Worldwide, every year, 200,000 new patients are diagnosed with leprosy. And an estimated 5.5 million people are afflicted by the disease. So leprosy is a disease of the past, but it's also very much a disease of the present. And first I will give some facts about leprosy. It's an infectious disease caused by a bacteria, Mycobacterium leprae, long incubation period, early symptoms often unobtrusive, but step by step getting worse if not treated. First medicine arrived in the mid-1940s, an antibiotic, Dapsone. In 1982, the start of a multi-drug treatment is a cocktail of different antibiotics called MDT. The disease as such is curable That is the killing of the bacteria. But the problem is that before the start of proper treatment, there might already be damages, which in turn will lead to secondary damages and even worse damages. Leprosy in the biomedical sense is curable with the multi-drug treatment, as I said. And that means no further damages because of the bacteria after treatment, and after the start of treatment, no more transmission of the disease. But in all situations, what is important is the delays before people come for treatment. And the time period between first symptom and proper treatment needs to be as short as possible to protect the people from damages and from other people being infected by the disease. Now we take the next one. Yes, the arrival of dapsone was a turning point. Okay. Before the 1950s, there was no medical treatment for leprosy. So it's very, very present. At the same time, there were a great number of leprosy affected people in Nepal, some of them physically badly damaged. And to protect them, many of those recognized as leprosy affected were excommunicated, drummed out of the villages. Leprosy was a maharog, the big disease. People were afraid of those who were affected, afraid of transmission, and the stigma was high. The arrival of dapsone, and here we come, was a turning point. And with the arrival of MDT in the early 1980s, the hope of conquering the disease was born. And worldwide, Nepal included, from then on, a strong political and financial commitment to eradicate leprosy. And that was the first state. Now that is the ultimate goal, to eradicate leprosy. And as a first step was the elimination goal. And that is not the same as eradication. The elimination goal means that is less than one patient on leprosy treatment at a certain point in the year per 10,000 population. Usually is the 31st of December. And the expectation was that after this goal, the elimination goal has been reached, then the disease would die out gradually. Worldwide, the elimination goal was reached in the year 2000. In Nepal, it was reached in late 2009, proclaimed in early 2010, with a registered point prevalence of 0.77 per 10,000 population. The expectations were that from then on, there would be a steady decrease, but that has not happened. Instead, there has been a slow but steady increase. The latest official figure is 0.99 per 10,000 population, which means a number of new cases registered in the last fiscal year was no less than 3,300. And then, of course, there are those others out there that haven't been registered. Then we should have another slide that shows, yes, here we see the rise in the prevalence rate. From when it was proclaimed elimination was reached and it was supposed to more or less die out, we have a steady rise in prevalence. And that is a very dangerous sign, because that basically means that we are not winning the battle. The ongoing leprosy work is not enough to end leprosy in Nepal. Nepal has come a long way in fighting leprosy, absolutely. But the fight is also absolutely not over. Since its arrival in Nepal in the early 1950s, INF has been involved in leprosy work. First in leprosy care, and since the start of National Leprosy Program in 1974, also in leprosy control work. And INF was asked to help out in the western part of the country and has done so ever since. There are two main sides of INF's work: to care for the patients, medically, spiritually, and socially, and to stem the transmission of the disease. There were and are other organizations, mostly Christian missions, doing the same in Nepal and in other places. But in Nepal, they do it in other parts of the country. So we had a map earlier. It came a bit early, but here we go. There are 7 provinces to Nepal presently, and INF's catchment area, working area, primary working area, is province 4 with Pokhara, is province 5 with the Banki Hospital, and is province 6 with the Circuit Hospital. Yeah. So INF built and ran several leprosy hospitals and clinics in the western part of the country. And INF has also worked outside of the hospitals, out in the fields, supplied finances and manpower for leprosy control work outside the hospital. Now let's see what we have. Not, that's too early. Can you take that one away? Okay. Here we go. If you stay there. Okay. In 1987, Nepal's previously vertical leprosy program was formally integrated into the General Health Services. And INF was given the task to train hundreds upon hundreds of public health workers in leprosy, and are still doing so. Since then, step by step, the General Health Services have at large been taken over by the government when it comes to the routine treatment of leprosy, whereas INF is responsible for medical care of patients with severe leprosy complications and those in need of advanced surgery. And that is done mostly in the west part of the country. And presently then, INF has 3 hospitals with leprosy services, 1 in the 3 of the 7 provinces: Green Pastures Hospital in Pokhara, the Shining Hospital in Banki, and the Shining Hospital in Circuit. Okay, and in last year, no, in the fiscal year 2019-20, the hospital cared for 460 inpatients, diagnosed 280 new cases, and trained 630 patients and post-patients in leprosy self-care, and distributed 450 assisted devices. By a government decree, leprosy treatment are free of cost for patients. In addition, INF is and has been involved in various types of rehabilitation in the field, in the home communities, in income generation support, scholarships for children, and so on. And through outreach clinics, campaigns and the like. INF is also involved in active case detection and leprosy awareness raising. And as mentioned, in the training of government health service staff. Leprosy has been and is very much on the heart of INF. In early 2015, INF launched a 3-year research project on leprosy delays in the western part of the country. Delays from the first symptom to proper treatment. And they were found to be long, mostly more than 2 years. With delays of 2 years or more, many of those affected will end up with physical damages, and the disease will not be eradicated. And now some words about stigma. So if we get that one. Yeah. Leprosy was feared for the physical deterioration, for the possibility of transmission from one person to another, but also because it was seen as a curse by the gods, an earned condition according to the law of karma, i.e. because of bad, wrong deeds in this life or in an earlier. The persons affected were perceived as spiritually polluted and polluting, unclean, a person to avoid. In our days, only in the most extreme cases are patients excommunicated, but some choose to move away temporarily during the treatment period to save the family from the shame of having leprosy in the family. Leprosy is still a condition which influences the social status of family members, marriage possibilities, work opportunities, etc. And when a temporary move away is not possible, concealment is a common strategy to avoid social stigma and discrimination. Concealment is self-defense against social stigma. However, it only works when there are no apparent leprosy deformities. Moreover, in and through it all, there is a self-stigma. There is always shame involved in leprosy. There are the bacteria to fight against, but also the often terrible experience of being a person affected by leprosy. And even more so, if pre-treatment damages bring about further impairments and disability. When that happens, no one believes that the person is cured, neither the person themselves nor their social surroundings. So that was a bit of an overview and background. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ulla-Britt. That was wonderful. Such a great overview of both the disease, INF's history of working with the disease, and those social impacts, which, as you say, and it's shocking really to see that elimination is set at below 1, and yet the prevalence is increasing again. So work ahead of us. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite Karuna to restart her video and sharing. And Ulla-Britt, I'll just temporarily mute and
fine, no problem.
take you off the screen. So Karuna, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, thank you. A very good afternoon to everybody present for this webinar. And it's a great privilege for me to share about INF's leprosy work among you. And before I start, I want to thank Ben also for organizing this, and of course for helping me to share the PowerPoint too. So we'll start with, as Ben has already introduced about me, so I just would like to introduce my family. If Ben can show me the picture. Yes, thank you so much. So, yes, thank you. So first slide. So I just want to introduce about my family. I've got a beautiful family because I want to remember them because they have been a big support for me to work in this organization. So my husband, Home, and my daughter, Shikaina. So now moving to the next slide, I would like to introduce a brief introduction about already Dr. Olabrit has given a detailed INF leprosy work, how it started. So as INF is rendering various services for leprosy work and among the leprosy patient since many decades, and it has a very vital purpose why this leprosy services has started. So as mentioned before, first of all is for the early diagnosis of leprosy. Second is for the prevention of disability. And the third one is the rehabilitation to restore the patient back to the community. And so the leprosy services has been rendered through 3 different hospitals. First of all, in this slide, we can see on the left side, that is Green Pasture Hospital, Pokhara, and in between it's Shining Hospital, Surkhet, and at the last it's Shining Hospital, Banke. So services are provided through medical programs as well as community program. So as I'm involved in Green Pasture Hospital directly, so I would like to start my sharing from Green Pasture's INF leprosy services. So in Green Pasture Hospital, through outpatient department, we mainly work in the new leprosy diagnosis as well as treating the mild complication of leprosy, and then doing the contact examination. We don't go to the community for contact tracing, but we call the newly diagnosed patient's family and the near ones to the hospital for the examination and for the tracing and for the smear test. So that's the way how outpatient department works. Whereas in inpatient department in Green Pasture Hospital, we treat the severe complication patient, and they stay with us at least minimum of 1 month to more than 6 months too. So we treat them for severe complication as well as when they reach to a deformity, when it is delayed in diagnosis. So even we provide a surgery with a specialized team for the correction of the deformities. And then especially, next slide, we can see the special thing which we have is, as in INF value, we say we want to serve the poor and disadvantaged people in a holistic approach. So in Green Pasture Hospital also, we based on this holistic approach, we give the care to the patient, as we have a multidisciplinary team of doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and prosthetic and orthotic department, and counseling, pastoral care, as well as hospice. So based on that, we give the services. So one of the important programs or activities which we do in Green Pasture to provide a holistic service is health education program. So we have designed a health education program for 4 weeks, in which the facilitators are from different departments, doctors, nurses, etc., as I've mentioned you in the multidisciplinary team. So this is a picture of Dr. Suraj presenting health education. So we can go to the next slide, please. It's also about the health education. Then along with health education, we have got a very active self-care activity program, in which we try to teach our patient how they are supposed to take care of themselves, so that they don't come up often with the simple problems too. So we work on the self-care activity also. And along with that, we can move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the self-care activity. Then we have a special counseling team who does the counseling on the bedside as well as in group for the patients. So this is also one of the important points for holistic approach. And next slide shows the pastoral care, which is also a very important part, as we have seen in Dr. Ulabit's presentation, that one of the aspects in which INF is supposed to work is the spiritual background. So pastoral care also takes care of the spiritual aspects. So this is the holistic approach method which we work. And then we will move to Shining Hospital Surkit. Shining Hospital Surkit at present, if you have to share that they have stopped the inpatient activity, but they are continually working on outpatient department, and they diagnose the new leprosy cases through skin OPDs, and they treat the mild complications. And along with that, if the patient is sick, if they need a admission, they refer the patient to Shining Hospital Banki. And they also provide, they have a piano department who provides the protective footwear for the patient. And then, so they work in these activities. So next is Shining Hospital Banki. So they have got inpatient as well as outpatient departments. So in outpatient, similar to Surkit and Green Pasture, they also have the OPD where they do the newly diagnosis and they treat the mild complications. And along with that, they do the body examination and etc. And for inpatient, they admit the patient for if they have a severe complications. So next slide, please. So this is the inpatient where this is the Bankia Hospital. So along with the medical program, we have a community program, which is very important, especially to rule out the early detection of leprosy. So in community program, as we know that Green Pasture is situated in Pokhara, we don't have the scheduled outreach program as such, but we work in advocacy program. So this is the picture which has been shown in the slide. So from Green Pasture, we do the advocacy part among the students, among the nurses, and among the community. So by organizing programs like this, poster competition, broadcasting, and also the rally, especially during the time of every year in the World Leprosy Day. Next slide, please. Yes, next is the Shining Hospital, where they do the community program, and especially they train
Karuna, we seem to have lost you for a moment. I'm not sure if your internet link has gone down. So it looks like Karuna is just leaving and planning to hopefully join us again. I'll just quickly send her an email to check how things are, which obviously if her internet is down, she's not necessarily going to receive. But that's the world we live in. It was a great connection right up until the moment that it wasn't. So I'm just going to, oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad
Technology.
to rejoin. No, that's wonderful. Let me get out of the way and restart the...
Okay. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Sorry for getting disconnected. So I was sharing about the Surkit community work. And then as they organize this type of training, along with that, they organize the awareness program. So this year they have conducted an awareness program for advocacy among 100 youths. That's the next picture, which you can see. So they work like this. And along with that, they do the home visit for contact tracing for the newly diagnosed cases. And then they also work among awareness programs. So next is the Shining Hospital Banke, they are very much proactive in community work. So in community work, they especially work, first is they work on advocacy part, which was the previous picture, which it's gone. So yes, thank you. And in this, they work among the different religious leaders. So they do the advocacy among the leaders because they are the main ones who go to the community to impart this information and make the people aware of this disease. And then they are very actively participating on formation of self-help group among the leprosy patient as well as disabled people. So at present, they have got 5 self-help groups in which they are working. And along with that, they have a home visit facility, which they do, especially they go like 2 to 3 times per month to the home for contact tracing, especially for newly diagnosed patients' family. And then they also teach the affected people about income generation activities. So they teach goat rearing, and along with that, some provisional shop, opening the provisional shop for the livelihood. Then they also work in supporting the kids of the leprosy affected patients, children. They are supported for the educational purpose. So at present, there is 13 students who are been getting this facility, and they are getting the benefit. So with these pictures and with this sharing, I'm so sorry if I'm very fast to be on time. And with this, words, I'm really happy to be part of INF, because as we have got 3 different hospitals in 3 different provinces, and with the 3 different specialized facilities. But whatever it may be with differences, but we need to remember, and I'm very privileged and happy that we are INF and we are one. So we work in integration in a holistic approach to bring the difference in patients' life, and especially to the poor and disadvantaged people, and based on Christ-centeredness. So I'm very privileged to share this. Now, as I'm moving to another topic, which I'm given to, now I'll be sharing about the impact on the patient or the community through the INF leprosy services. Actually, there are hundreds of stories which I could share, but at this time, I would just like to share one of our clients' story. As you might be seeing in the picture, he is 29 years old, and we have given his name as Imran. He belongs to Banke. And he, when he was like 8 years before, he had some symptoms, signs and symptoms. He had a blister on his hand, and along with a patch on his right elbow. So he was going here and there for treatment, and he could not get better. Then later on, he came to Shining Hospital, Banke. Till that time, he was having other problems and deformities already, like claw hands, and he was having anesthetist food. Everything was developed at that time. So when he reached there, he was been diagnosed, and he was given the medicine and treatment, everything. So as he is very young person, he has a wife, very young wife with 3 children, and a mother and a brother to take care of, and he is the breadwinner. So with the deformity, he could not continue with his daily activities, and especially at his work. So he was very worried. So from INF Shining Hospital, Banke, with the integration, as I've shared you previously, the 3 hospitals have different facilities. So from Banke, they integrated with Green Pasture Hospital, and he was sent to Green Pasture Hospital in November 2019, when in Green Pasture, we conducted a hand surgery week. So he had a surgery there for his hand as well as for his eye. His eyes was also having deformity. He could not close his eyes. So he was sent there. So he had a surgery there. That's in the next slide, please. So yes, so he's there with the dark glasses at the back after his surgery. So 20 beneficiaries were there to take this benefit in the hand surgery week. So he was one of them. So after the surgery, he stayed with us for almost at least 1 month for his therapy. And after his therapy was done and everything, he could do his work with his hand. Then he was sent back and reintegrated in the community. So that's a very good part. So he went back, and because his hands and everything was corrected, so he could join back at his work. He's a carpenter. So he continued his work. So even in the time of pandemic, even though he could not earn the full amount, but at least he could earn 8,000 rupees per month to support his family. So he was very happy to reintegrate in the community and support his family. Along with that, not only his regular job or work, but he could be very actively involved in the self-help group. So he is actively, and he is appointed as a chairperson in his self-help group, and he has 20 members in his self-help group, and they are collecting the money and giving loan to the other members who can start their own income generating activity. So he's been very happy with all these changes in his life. Along with that, he works in a farm where he could grow vegetables and so forth to support his own family again. And as he was in Green Pasture Hospital, he attended that 4-week package, health education, everything, which he knew more about the disease, how it will be. So it also benefited him that when he went back home, and as he was there, he could see the change in his own mother and brother, and he thought that it's leprosy. So he referred them to the hospital in Banki, and even they were diagnosed as leprosy patient in their early phase itself, and they are on treatment at present. So that also helped Imran a lot. And now, as he has achieved all these things, still he has some desire in his heart. So he thinks if he could register his self-help group with some cooperatives or with NGOs, so that he can raise awareness among the people regarding the leprosy, and also advocate for the leprosy and the disabled people for their rights. So this is wonderful, and this is one of the very good and successful story which I feel. So these are all by the grace of God, and by his work and how he worked among all the people's life and show his miracles among patients and for INF too. So having said that, I would like to conclude this sharing. Of course, there are many stories which I would love to do. This is the picture of self-help group where he is there, covering his head with one of the country's flag scarf. So he's working there. And with this, I would like to conclude my sharing, especially with one Bible verse I would like to share you. That's from 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6, which says, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it. So all these success stories are by God's work. We are just the instrument of his hand. And by the support of all our prayer partners and supporters, we could achieve this. So once again, I would like to thank Almighty God for giving me this opportunity, especially to be a part of this ministry, and to all of you for your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karuna. That was wonderful. Such a great pictorial, visual journey into the work of INF, and really powerful to see the people and see the ways that INF is supporting them. So when we say the words holistic, it's not always easy to get a picture of what that is, but to see the counselling and the pastoral care and the health education and the physical treatment and the rehabilitation work, and then the community integration and advocacy, you understand why the word holistic is used and actually is the right word to use. So it's really encouraging to see. And yeah, I do want to thank you and Ulla-Britt both for sharing tonight and for the work that you do and continue to do in the area of leprosy. Ulla-Britt, I think you were going to share a little bit briefly also about future plans that INF has about leprosy. You've noted that INF in Nepal has been involved with leprosy work for, where are we now, 2021, so nearly 7 decades, and in a formally integrated way with the government National Leprosy Program since 1974. So it will be interesting to see how we're going to go moving forward. Ulla-Britt appears to have left the call. No, there she is, right at the top. So I might just pass back to you to share with us briefly about INF's current and future plans for the leprosy program.
No? Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
And you see me too?
We can see you as well.
Well, well, well. Yes. So something about the future plans for INF's leprosy work. And the starting point then is, of course, that leprosy is still with us, very, very much so in Nepal. And here we should have a PowerPoint slide. Let's see if it comes.
Sorry, one moment,
Yes.
It appears to have closed on my screen. So if you just keep talking, I'll have it up in one moment.
Okay, so INF's goals and vision is zero leprosy Nepal, an end on leprosy in Nepal, where leprosy is eradicated across the country and persons affected by leprosy are able to enjoy fullness of life within their own communities. So it is both to end the transmission of the disease and to make sure that those that have been badly damaged by the disease can still live good lives. Then we come to the second slide. Never mind, I take it verbally. The national leprosy has 3 pillars. 1, to stop transmission of leprosy and its complications, to stop discrimination against leprosy-affected persons and promoting inclusion, to strengthen enablers, government ownership, coordination, partnership, and capacity building. And these pillars are not new to INF. They are and have been core to INF's history of leprosy work in Nepal. What is needed is to upgrade and to intensify the efforts. We are doing it right, but we need to do it more and we need to increase what we're doing it. The plan, in short, is to make sure that the hospitals that we have and which we have seen on the pictures that Karuna showed are upgraded, that they're working, they're functioning well, and that they are upgraded. Holistic care and rehabilitation of Green Pastures Hospital, where advanced and complex medical and surgical care is provided. And in Province 5, the Shining Hospital INF Banke, to have high standard leprosy out and inpatient facilities. And in Province 6, the Shining Hospital INF Circuit, in regard to leprosy, mainly outpatient services. In addition to this, the plans are to have good community health and development programs in some of the most isolated and rural areas of Western Nepal, where leprosy is still prevalent. And continuous training support to the training and capacity building of local and provincial government staff and healthcare workers for long-term sustainability. Applied leprosy research will be encouraged. And in addition, in line with recent WHO suggested strategies, there will be more of a cross-cutting approach and integration with other neglected tropical diseases, in which INF's existing strengths in rehabilitation and prevention of disability is made the most of. We have resources, but they need to be sustained, and they need to be upgraded, and they need to be intensified. Thus, plans are there, and plans are being developed by INF to continue and to continue well towards a Nepal free of leprosy. The work will be carried out in collaboration with the government and with other national and international organizations. Thank you. So the plans are there, but the resources are needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ulla-Britt. And I'll just ask Karuna to rejoin via video and unmute, just for a little bit of time for questions if people have. So Peggy has asked a question, Karuna, specifically for you around the challenges that you and your team at GP and maybe across INF are facing regarding leprosy work. What are the particular challenges that you face today, and ways that we can pray for you and your team and the patients?
Thank you so much for the question, Sister Peggy. As you have asked me about the challenges, already Dr. Ulla-Britt has said that there is a plan for 5 years and ahead. Many plans are there, but mainly at this time is the plan, problem or the challenges of resources. Likewise, only like if I have to speak about, as I start to share about Green Pasture itself, like as Green Pasture mainly works with the tertiary level work more than community. What the challenge I always feel and difficulties what I feel personally also and for my staff also is sometimes we run short of the beds. It's a simple thing, but patient, more like new diagnosis, they have been treated with a simple medical treatment and they go back. But when they come and later on when they are relieved from the treatment, they are not counted in the statistics and there is no plan for them. But the patient which we receive in Green Pasture are the people, client, those who have the problem after the completion of the treatment. So they have got lots of problem, as most of you know, that reaction, ulcer, social problem, not only their physical problem, some people have their social problems. So they like to come back to the hospital again and again. And we like to teach them, we have health education package to teach them, but we know that they have been stigmatized in the family. So they find the loving and a warm environment in the hospital, so they'd like to come. But our challenge is when we want to keep them, we don't have that much of funds to keep them also and no infrastructure to keep them. So that is a very big challenge and it's hard to say no. Because here we are for them, because nowhere else in no other hospital in Pokhara will take the patient, leprosy patient. So we would like to take them, but the challenge is of course the fund, of course, as Ben has already shared, to give a hope and a motivation. There is a campaign going on at present, which starts from the country itself to raise awareness among our local parties, so that we know this is a work which is very important. But the challenge which we face, and especially the nurses face, because what happens is doctors, they want to just call the patient and they can't refuse. So they say, okay, please go to the ward, and get admitted. And nurses, they know the real situation. There is no bed and there are things. So nurses would like to, encourage the patient, if there is no bed, please, can you hold on or something. So it's very challenging for the nurses. We also would like to take care of them. But of course, with the stigma and with the social problem they face and physical problem they go on, they would like to come to us. So at present also we have got assigned bed is around 25 to 30, but most of the time we run like more than 40 also. So we make our arrangement, but we are not maintaining the distance or infection control system or whatever we are supposed to do that. We can't follow. There is a small room where we have to, in place of 4, we have to take 6 to 7 patients, because we can't say no, and they have the need, so we have to keep, So what I would like to request is, please continue to pray for us and for whole INF, so that, of course, God has started this work and He will take care of everything. But as we are here, God has been providing and He's been faithful till today, and He will continue to be faithful. So, but we need to continue this work as INF is always, it's a very vital part of the activities of INF. So I would like to request, please pray for all these funds and whatever needs we have, especially for infrastructure in the community, human resources, many things may be there. People, everybody is willing to work, but sometimes in this world, finance and the funds are also one of the important role which we feel. So please pray for that, so that all of us are motivated always to provide the service, not only in a basic level, but in excellence, which we want to provide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karina. There's been a few questions coming in, so a couple of probably quick ones to answer. Can you just describe what a 2-day camp involves? What's actually involved in one of those outreach camps?
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, is this the camp regarding the hand surgery?
I'm guessing that is, yes.
Yeah, it was organized in 2019. So we didn't call that as a camp, but we said hand surgery week, because we thought that other patients who are non-leprosy, even if they want to do the surgery, they can do, and they can give the bill, they can pay the cost, whatever they could bear, and so that we can support again the leprosy work. So in that 2-day, in that week, it was not only 2 days, it was a week. So in that there was 20 beneficiaries who has taken that benefit. So especially there was team from outside, and our own doctor, Dr. Suraj, was actively involved in that. So in that, this patient, Imran, also had a surgery. Thank you.
Thank you. And Daryl and Wendy have asked if there are vaccinations for the prevention of leprosy. So we understand there's good treatment, and that's very effective if it's identified early, reducing disability and so on. So does leprosy respond to any vaccinations or preventative?
Can I answer that?
Please.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
There have been several attempts to produce vaccinations, and every now and then we get a happy signal, it's going well, but thus far, no.
Maybe I can add to that also, Ola-Britt.
Yes, you can. You might be more positive.
No, there have been several large trials in the past, in the 70s, in Africa, but they show limited protection up to 50–70%. What is now researched a lot is to give immediate contacts 1 or 2 times drug rifampicin to protect the immediate contacts of an index case. And that's where research is going on now and emphasizing on. I'm not sure if I'm clear here. Should I repeat?
But it's not really vaccinations though, is it?
No, that's not vaccination, but it protects the immediate contacts.
Yes, hopefully.
No, thank you. That is helpful to hear. And both of your responses, Ola-Britt and Wim, might relate to one of the other questions, which is around, well, 2 questions. One was, what contribution, what support does the government of Nepal provide, both, I guess, directly to INF and similar organizations for the leprosy work that we and they are involved in, but also more broadly, the involvement of the public health system and so on to combat leprosy. How much emphasis and how much support does the government of Nepal provide? And you've mentioned neglect. I mean, neglected tropical diseases, and neglected obviously implies neglect. And given elimination was declared, but since that time, actually the case prevalence has increased. What's the explanation of that? And is that occurring in other parts of the world? Are governments failing to live up to their responsibilities to move from that elimination threshold to eradication?
It sounds like it would be if we take the last part of this with eradication and elimination, it's a complex question, because the elimination goal is that the patients that are registered for treatment. And then, of course, if you don't have that, that is decreasing, it can be because there are more patients altogether, more people getting the disease, or it can be that the efforts to reach them and to get them registered is getting better. And it's difficult to know if it's one or the other, or a combination of the two. But as far as we understand, the actual number of patients that get leprosy in Nepal is presently not going down.
Right.
And then you have the complication that you have most of the patients down on the Terai in the south, where you have the border to India. And in the same time, in northern India, you have a very high prevalence of leprosy. So even if we, so to say, can reach each Nepali within Nepal, you might still have leprosy continuously coming in for quite a while.
Yeah. So to some extent, it's evidence of better community outreach and case identification.
Could be. We don't know.
Right. But to some extent probably also reflects the priorities. So does the government provide much support to INF Nepal for its leprosy work, medical rehabilitation, community awareness raising? Does it provide much or not?
As far as I am aware, but I'm not into the finances so much, but the medicines, the leprosy medicines, are provided free of cost through the government. They get it from Switzerland, and then we get it. And they also give some travel money to patients to come and to return home. But as far as I know, other than that, at least in the Circuit Hospital, is all we get. Then I think Green Pastures have for surgery some money from the government, but otherwise I don't know.
Right.
But basically, and this is a problem, and this is a main problem, is that we are so dependent upon finances from the outside. It's almost impossible to rally finances inside the country, and the patients are poor, and we are giving free treatment. And where does that money come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in earlier days, you had a lot of foreigners within INF, and foreigners with contacts at home and through the churches, etc. And you had a broad array of donors through channels and through contacts of several of the expats. And today, there are very few expats left in the mission. And at the same time, some of the work positions that they had are now by Nepali workers, and they are going to be paid. And at the same time, some of those channels that were there to earlier donors are gone. So it's a very difficult situation.
Mm. And it's sad to think of global health going through fads or trends, but we know that it does. And focus on leprosy globally has obviously decreased over recent decades. So that it does make a very difficult situation. Just leads me to a final question.
Sorry, Ben, can I add something?
Please do.
Yeah, about the government involvement, there's no more things I want to share from GP.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, you want to see my face?
If possible, that would be great.
Okay, I mean, one thing, when Sister Connor talking about advocacy, the role or the with the networking, the government play a major role over there. They pay money every year. And the government, when we partner with them and they say, we don't have our special program in the World Leprosy Day, but we are happy if INF have some. we pay, something like the gift, and also the things is from the government. That's number one. And number two, as I understand, at the moment, I don't think GP have applied that. Government have some money for the medical treatment, not only MDT. Something like if you want to do a cataract surgery or you admit a hospital, 2,000 per visit, something like that. They have a curriculum, all these things in the Pali, we translate in English already. So in our team, we also ask, how can we claim the money like other hospitals? Alandaban, they're claiming, okay? So the government want a very detailed and clear record because we are charity, everything. We don't charge the patient, but we have to bill everything. So the government actually, they have some system or some financial involvement if you apply to claim it back. That's what I understand.
Thank you. And that, I think that highlights one of the things I was just going to say, that the importance of advocacy, both at the community level and at the provincial and national government level, to encourage, and I mean, I could see the training being provided to government workers, but it looks like there's probably scope also for INF to be doing continued work advocating both through leprosy patient networks and their self-help groups, but as an organization and through its networks and collaborating partner organizations to advocate for governments to invest more overall in those neglected tropical diseases, in leprosy prevention and treatment. So that's definitely something that we'll keep praying. And Inga's just noted something about our the way INF's identification of cases relates to the global number of cases. So a significant amount of work being done by INF, a relatively small organization in a relatively small country, actually contributing quite substantially to the overall detection and treatment and support for people with leprosy. We don't really have much time, but I was just going to ask if you two have any reflections on the impact of COVID-19 on leprosy patients or the leprosy programs. So I have a very good friend in Kathmandu who has leprosy, and after the earthquake, because her ability to travel from where she lived on the outskirts of the valley into central Kathmandu, that was obviously disrupted. The hospitals at the time were quite overwhelmed, so she didn't travel back into Kathmandu for some months after the earthquake. And because of that, her ulcers on one of her legs were not being treated and managed well. And she ended up having to have an amputation below the knee on her left leg. So disruption to health services obviously is a big risk during something like a pandemic, people's access to health services potentially being very disrupted. But also I'm wondering if any comorbidities or other health effects of people with leprosy being exposed to COVID-19. Just wondering if Ulla-Britt or Karuna, do you have any reflections on those impacts?
I haven't been in Nepal since almost a year now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that one of the impacts, of course, in Suket Hospital has been far fewer patients. And the patients we have are for complicated leprosy. It's either a complication because of the medication or complicated secondary damages to leprosy. And those damages and those complications are no less in reality when we have COVID-19 than when we didn't have it. But we have far less patients, which means that they are not coming to the same degree, which means that it will be further complications for them.
Yeah.
So it's very, for physically, very, very negative situation.
Yeah.
They're not getting the help they are needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding the impact in green pasture, like for our leprosy affected patients. Like, of course, the number of patients ratio was decreased at that time, but in the hospital, along with leprosy, for leprosy patient and other problem patient also, we thought that at the time it would be good if we can have a way to connect to them and ask how they are doing, whether they are able to get the medication, are they continuing with the treatment and all. So we started with a telemedicine, telehealth activity program, and same thing for other disability patient also. So from leprosy also, our OPD staff was very active on that. Of course, Sister Ming was helping on all that work to be done, and patients were connected and they were asked how they are doing. And in that time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1 or 2 patients were like unable to come and they were not having medicine. So from the hospital, through telehealth, they went to deliver the medicine to their, home itself, so that they are not out of the treatment. So it was also done like that. And the other patient, those who were like having complication and all, they were trying to connect also. Some patients were brought to the hospital through our own hospital ambulance facility. And after discharge also, we could use our own ambulance to reach them home, so that they don't have to stay in the hospital unnecessarily too. And at the time, of course, it was a hard time, but in our leprosy ward, 2 patients, if I remember, 2 patients were infected. We could diagnose them here only. Then we tried to refer one of the patients to the COVID center, but she was very reluctant to go because she was worried that already she has leprosy, and along with that COVID, and patient will just, stigmatize her. So she didn't want to go. So even though we were not fully ready, but we could accommodate her here in hospital for 14 to 20 days. And then after that, she was able to go back and she was happy. And other patient, because patient was not well, so we had to refer that patient to the COVID center. And yes, it was. It has given an impact not only to patient, even to our staff, because staff were also infected with COVID. But I really thank God for the heart that our staff had, and the values and the vision which INF has. They know from the beginning when they joined. So at the time of crisis, when we had so many staff infected with COVID, still our staff were willing to work extra time, and 12 hours duties, so forth. And they were never afraid to come. Of course, in the hospital, everybody was provided with all the proper PPEs as much as possible, but the services was given completely. There was no any hindrances or lack in the services, I feel. So for that also, I would like to thank the supporters who have supported for, especially INF Australia, those who have supported for PPEs and all the staff benefits. So I would like to thank at this time for that also. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and for painting the picture. It's a very sobering picture, which in some ways, as you've said, the case prevalence is going in the wrong direction. That patients not turning up to hospital is an indication of complications and harm are coming in the future, with patients not able to manage well, receive the treatment or the medication they need. So there are some really big challenges for the government of Nepal to address this among all the other challenges that the government faces, and for INF to play its part in that. So we really do want to hold you guys in prayer, and send our deepest respect and appreciation for the work that you do. In finishing, I would just like to mention 2 quick things. So thank you to everyone who's joined. Really appreciate you spending your time on a Monday evening here in Australia, or other times wherever you are in the world, reflecting on these important but often little discussed issues. I'll send an email around to people. I think almost everybody on the call is already connected with INF or INF Australia. So, but if you're not and you'd like to know more, I'll send an email around giving you a link to sign up, just to hear news, regular news about events, workshops, webinars, and the work that we support. And I do want to really highlight to people on the call, and I'll email this as well, that as Karuna mentioned, INF Nepal has launched a Care for Cure campaign. So the first time INF Nepal has really, as far as I understand it, has really reached out to the community in Nepal beyond the international community. So reaching out to churches, reaching out to businesses, social enterprises, to ask them to raise awareness and raise funds to support the work of treating leprosy, of helping people rehabilitate, reintegrate in community, do that work of advocacy and empowerment at the local community level. So we really want to encourage and support you in that. I think it's wonderful to see INF reaching in that way to churches and other community groups. And I will, while we don't have a direct Care for Cure fundraising page at this point on the INF Australia site, we're very, very supportive. We've contributed some funding already. Some donors have been contributing some funding already. So I'll give links about the ways that people might want to, if you're in a position to give maybe over and above what you already give to support this particular work at this time. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you again, Ulla-Britt and Karuna. So wonderful to hear what you had to share. And let me just very briefly pray for you and then bid everyone a good night. So loving God, we do thank you for the way that you have worked through INF over decades now to care for people with leprosy, their families, and the communities that they're part of. And we thank you that in this you have empowered and equipped Karuna and people like Karuna to bear witness to your great and enduring love. We ask you to continue to empower and equip and encourage Karuna and all of those she works with in all of the hospitals and all of the community programs to continue to be your witnesses, to continue to care for in really practical and powerful ways people experiencing both a really profoundly, often profoundly disabling disease, but a really profoundly stigmatizing disease in Nepal. And we do just ask you to work through INF, through other organizations, through government agencies, through patients themselves and the groups they're part of, to raise awareness, to help people come forward to receive treatment as early as possible. We just pray that you will work through all of these efforts to speed the day when there is an end to leprosy, where there is no further transmission of cases, where no one is becoming disabled because of the disease, and where there is no stigma and discrimination. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. And a recording of this link will also, of this webinar will also be uploaded to the website and INF's YouTube channel over the next week or so. Once that link is available, I'll share it. So if anyone you know would have been interested but couldn't join tonight, they will be able to experience it